What's good, everybody? It's your boy here, the Q-Tip, and I'm back with another video. Today, I'm ranking WNBA contenders midway through the season. We are officially at the All-Star break. We have All-Star festivities coming up this weekend, so there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to see, and there's a lot to look forward to in the second half of the season. Before we get to that, I'm going to be ranking WNBA contenders based off who I think have the best chance of winning a title or the most ready to win a title right now, or look like the most ready to win a title right now, because at the end of the day we really don't know until the games are played and we get to the playoffs and whoever wins the championship wins the championship. That being said, I have 6 teams. I have 2 tiers. If your team, or if there's a team that's not in this and you feel a certain way, we can debate about it in the comments, I guess. But the 6 teams that I have, I feel like all have a worthy case of being in this conversation. If you're not in this conversation, you don't have a worthy case, in my opinion. Again, in my opinion. So I'll start from the bottom up. Um, this the bottom four, I would say the bottom four. So the 2 tiers that I have the Storm, the Mercury, the Dream, and the Fever, all in the second tier, and then I have the Liberty and the Lynx in the first tier. So I just feel like there's a little bit that separates the top tier from the next tier. And maybe by the end of the season that'll change. But going into the season, this was kind of what my tier looked like. I didn't have the Dream or the Fever in this, I believe. But as we gotten further and further into the season, we've seen these teams play against each other. We've seen these teams really be above the competition that they've played. And I think it's just obvious that these are the 6 teams that have played the best this season and that are have the best chance or have the best conversation or debate for being contenders. So, number 6, I'm gonna say Atlanta. I'm gonna say Atlanta. I've been going back and forth between the 5 and the 6 with 2 teams. I'm gonna say Atlanta is number 6. Atlanta is number 6 to me because one, Ryan just got hurt, and she won't return until the end of July. I probably would have had them 6 regardless of whether or not she got hurt. My only thing with the Dream, and this is something that they can only really change in the playoffs, is I haven't seen them be able to sustain their highest level of play in crunch time in big games. And when you get to the playoffs, that's probably the most important part, is at the end of games, who can you trust? What plays can you trust? Can your team execute? Can your best player execute? And I don't think we've seen that consistently. And that's what gives me pause to put them higher in the contenders list. They also, outside of Brittany Griner, they don't have a lot of playoff finals championship experience on their team. Bree Jones has been in a lot of playoff series with the Sun, so she has some experience, but she doesn't have experience winning a championship per se. Um, Ryan, Alicia have been really good and have been all-star level, all WNBA level players, but they haven't had great success in the playoffs yet. So it's hard to put them in a certain category or in that upper category, just because there's still some things that I need to see personally before I could feel like they can beat those upper echelon of teams in the playoffs and get to a championship and ultimately win a championship. I also don't feel like they have enough depth. The depth is also a concern for me, just because Ryan is now hurt, because I think Ryan and Alicia are playing number 1 and number 3, or playing the first and the third most minutes in the league. And you chose to sign Maya Caldwell, you chose to bring in Shatori Walker Kimbrough, and you drafted Tina Pow Pow, you brought in Jordan Canada. You have to trust those players enough for Alicia and Ryan to be able to get some kind of time on the bench without causing them to be into what Ryan is in right now. Ryan was playing with a knee brace, a big bulky knee brace on for a good chunk of this season, and now she's hurt that, I want to say it's the same leg, even more. So now she's out for an extended period of time, and you can't really You can't really have that in this time at this time of the year because while there are more games than there has been in the past years, the room for error is lower than it's been in the last couple of years just because like I said, there's 6 teams that are contenders that I see as contenders, but there's also teams like the Mystics, the Valkyries, and the Aces that are right there trying to crawl up and take that spot. So the Dream could easily go from like 3 or 4 to 6 or 7, and that's a completely different first round matchup for them. So those are just some of the things that I'm looking at. Offensive rating, they are fourth in the league. Defensive rating, they're sixth in the league. They're not bad at any stretch of the imagination. Obviously, if I feel like they're contenders, they're still a really good team. There's just some things that I have to see personally from them. Number 5, I have the Indiana Fever. Some people might disagree. That's up to you. They are third in offensive rating, fifth in defensive rating. They haven't been able to be super consistent with the Caitlin injuries. She's missed 9 games, actually 10 games after she missed the Liberty game. So she's missed 10 games total this season, and it's been really hard for them to get a rhythm of whether she's not playing, she is playing. You just never really know. Um, but despite that, they've still played really well in different settings. They've played well enough to win a Commissioner's Cup and win games in the Commissioner's Cup to get to that championship game. They won that championship game against the Minnesota Lynx without Caitlin Clark in Minnesota and played phenomenal defense in that game. While Minnesota, I feel, missed a lot of shots that they should have made, the Indiana Fever's defense should get a lot of credit for that. And the reason I feel the Fever are such a dangerous team is because if they can do this without Caitlin and without Caitlin playing at her best as well, what could they do if she does play well or play at her best? Is what I'm looking at here. Kelsey Mitchell's been phenomenal. Aaliyah Boss has been phenomenal. Natasha Howard's been potentially the best signing in the offseason. Lexi Hull has improved a ton. Sophie Cunningham has been great for them. Ari McDonald was a great pickup for them. Um, Michaela Timpson has given them great minutes. Like they've just found ways to win games, and they've been really good against other good teams as well. They have a win against the Dream. I think they definitely have a win against the Storm. They have a win against the Liberty. They beat the Lynx in the Commissioner's Cup. So all these teams that I mentioned outside of the Mercury, I don't think they played the Mercury yet. I could be wrong. I don't think they played the Mercury yet. All these teams they've beaten at least once. So it's not like they don't feel like they can win. And then I talked about the experience with the Dream. Natasha Howard has championship experience. Sophie Cunningham has experience. Not I wouldn't say championship experience, but she has playoff experience. Brianna Turner has experience in the playoffs. Like they have players that understand how to get to certain points. I wouldn't say Aaliyah Boston has championship experience, but she's won championships in college, so she knows what it takes to get to that level. Obviously, the W in college is different, but winning a championship is winning a championship no matter where it is. I will say their inconsistency scares me a bit, but their ceiling is so high that they have to be in this conversation. Their ceiling is potentially higher than the Storm and the Mercury, who I have above them. But their floor, I feel like it's like between 7, 8, and 9 in the standings low. So be with that what you will. We don't know what Caitlin's injury looks like coming out of the All-Star break. So that's important to note. But as of right now, I have them at 5. Number 4, I have the Phoenix Mercury. Now this one, honestly, them and the Storm could flip-flop for me depending on the day, depending on the week, depending on whatever. But the Mercury are 5th in offensive rating, 3rd in defensive rating. They haven't even played with their full roster yet. They haven't played with Satu, Alyssa Thomas, and Ka more than probably 3 games at this point. And they've looked good when just Satu played. They've looked good when AT and Satu played. They looked pretty good when the trio played. And then they went and got Dewana Bonner, who's looked really good since she's been there. I personally would have been okay if they didn't go pick her up because I like what the other players were doing. I like what Catherine Westbrook has been doing. I like what Sammy Whitcomb has been doing. I like what Natasha Mack was doing when she came back from her injury. Kitty Laxa, I like what she's done. I just feel like the players were doing a really good job, and sometimes when you bring in a player like that, it can I don't want to say to be demoralizing, but it can make certain players lack confidence. And a lot of the players that are on the Phoenix Mercury, this is their first WNBA season, so they are rightfully so potentially walking on eggshells because okay, now this player's come in, they've taken my spot. Now I'm expendable. Now I can be dropped at any minute or any moment and just not have a roster spot. But I will say they've looked really good despite the injuries that they've had to deal with all season. And I think that gives them a little bit of an edge just because not everyone has seen them play with their best players all on the court at the same time. And I think that could be something they can look forward to. It could be good and it could be bad as well. It could be good as in you won't have a lot of film on it. You won't be able to scout against it because you haven't seen it as much. But then there's also chemistry, confidence, continuity, all of that could not be great for them as a unit. So I would look at I would that's why I have them lower than the Storm because I've seen the Storm play with their full lineup and they also have championship experience. So the Mercury are still really good. I still like what they have. I I think they need a center, like some kind of post play that they can really trust. I don't want to say Kalani Brown or Natasha Mack aren't trust like you can't trust them, but I feel like there's probably not another player out there right now that they could go get, but I just feel like besides Emma Mieseman, who they are somewhat linked to, I feel like there's just something missing there, and that hurts them, especially in a potential series against like the Lynx or the Liberty or the Storm, who have great post players. Even the Fever have Aaliyah Boston and Natasha Howard. So um, there's gonna come a time where you really need those centers to step up and play big. And if the centers that they currently have on the roster can do that, they have a really good chance of winning the championship. Number three, I have the Seattle Storm. They are seventh in offensive rating and fifth in defensive rating. They have three All Stars. They still have Ezzy Bagbagor. They have um, Erica Wheeler, who's playing really good basketball. Like I've been pretty critical of her last couple years in Indiana, but she's been phenomenal this year next to them. Gabby Williams has been like all WNBA level in my opinion. I think she should be on the all WNBA team. I think she is in great contention to be defensive player of the year. She's an all-star. She's having a phenomenal season. I think she changed the ceiling of this team completely. I think Skylar and NECA being what they are night in and night out is always going to be great for a team. Like Skylar Diggins, competitive fire, and just experience and having the experience of being in every moment, being on any kind of team, and just understanding not these kinds of teams and this kind of moments don't come around very often. Same with NECA. NECA's been on a championship team. She's been on teams that were close to being in to winning the championship. She's been on teams that were really bad. So she knows what it's like to be in the ups and downs and the ebbs and flows of a WNBA season or even a WNBA team. But I feel like what they've been able to do, and again, I will say them Skylar logging as many minutes and NECA logging as many minutes is also something similar to the dream that I'm a little cautious about. Um, but you still have a player like Dominic Malongo on the bench who, when given time, has looked really good, like in the spurts that she's played, and they don't play it. They don't trust their bench a ton, just because they have so much. They have so many different weapons on their starting lineup that it makes sense that you don't really play them that much. But at the same time, you got to give them some kind of rest. Um, as a whole, this is a very good team. I think what they could possibly do against a Lynx or a Liberty team is different than the Mercury or different than the Dream, different than the Fever, just because they're going to attack you on defense and they're at the same time they have options at every spot. Like Skylar can score, Erica can score, Gabby can score, NECA can score, Ezzy can score. And it's just when you look across the board, it's hard to stop a team when there's five options. Not saying that they're all great five, like they're not all great options, but they're all options on the offensive end. Um, Defense is something that when they are locked in, they have the potential to be the best defense in the league. Just because of how much athleticism, speed, size they have, um, and can put on the court at any given time. Like there's a lot that goes in. There's a lot that they could do defensively to make a team like the Lynx or like the Liberty struggle in the playoff series. Um, Number two, I have the New York Liberty. Some people might disagree with that as well because they're the defending champions, but I think the Lynx have looked better than them this season. I also think the Lynx were robbed out of a championship last year, so I think I think the Lynx and the Liberty both came out with the same amount of motivation coming into this season. I think both of them started out really well. I think the reason that the Liberty have lost as many games as they have to this point, and I think they've only lost six, so it's not that much, but they've lost some of those games due to not having John Cole Jones. John Cole Jones is a huge piece to this team. Like I know people are looking at him like, okay, John Cole Jones was like an extra piece. John Cole Jones was an extra piece when you have Benaja Laney. They don't have Benaja Laney Hamilton right now. She's out for the season. John Cole Jones has been out for about 2 to 3 weeks at this point, and they've kind of struggled. They're starting to get their flow back. They've won three straight, I believe. Um, Stewie's looked really good. Natasha Cloud has had good moments. Sabrina is like one great game, one subpar game, one great game, two great games, and then another struggle. So I just for Sabrina, sorry, I'm just looking for consistency. Honestly, Leonie Phoebus has been good since she's been back from Eurobasket, and I just feel like you can't count them out because one, John Quill comes back. Two, they just won a championship last year. They have the chemistry, they have the resolve, they have the understanding of each other as a team. That okay, we just got to get to this spot, and once we get to the playoffs, we feel good playing against anybody, which they should because they're defending champions. And if John Quill Jones is healthy, they have the talent and they have the ability to beat anyone in a series. Um, I want to see what they look like when John Quill comes back. I want to see them play against the other teams when John Quill is back. But I like their chances against the Dream. I like their chances against the Fever. I like their chances against the Mercury. The Storm are a team that's given them a lot of trouble. So I'm curious to see what that would look like in a playoff series. And then again, we haven't seen the Liberty and the Lynx yet. I can't wait to see that game personally, or those games personally, just because I don't know if the Lynx have like that much bitter taste in their mouth from the finals. But I think it's enough to where those games are going to have a different kind of intensity to them, and I can't wait to see it personally. So obviously, I have the Lynx at number one. They are second in offensive rating, first in defensive rating. This is back-to-back years where they had the best defense in the league, one of the top offenses in the league, and it's weird because when you look at the Lynx and you look at the roster doesn't say like best team in the league. But when you have an MVP who is also a DPOY candidate year in and year out, and she's a super unselfish player and plays basketball the right way, you could surround her with complementary pieces and still be a contender. So when you surround her with an Alana Smith at the five, who is going to put her body on the line every single night on offense and defense to try to help the team win, and then you have Courtney Williams, who can go out and get you 30 on any given night. You have Kayla McBride who can get you 30 on any given night. You have Bridget Carlton who can make 4 or 5 threes on any given night. Like, there's a lot of options, even though you don't think there are when you look at the team on paper compared to other teams. Then you still have Natisha Hyman off the bench. You still have Diamond Miller off the bench. You still have Jess Shepard off the bench. Like, they have options everywhere. Unfortunately, Carly Samuelson got hurt, but they had her as well before she got hurt. So there's a lot of options on offense, and I just feel like they play such a good brand of basketball And when they're playing their best, I think they're by far the best team in the league. But we've seen over the past couple of weeks that if they're not making shots, it's hard for the defense to keep up as well as it was last year and early in the season. So that's what I'm curious at is, can they keep up the offensive pace that they've had the last 2 years for a greater part of the last 2 years? Um, I mentioned earlier Emma Meeseman for Phoenix. She's also linked to New York and Minnesota. So if one of those teams get her, it could really flip. It could flip who I believe are, or it could flip my rankings of contenders, because Emma Meeseman is a really good player. Obviously, she's not the prime Emma Meeseman, but she's still a great player. And again, I said this on the podcast with me and Bryce on the Hoodie and the Headband on Multiplicity Media. Go check that out. I said when the Washington Mystics won the championship, Emma Meeseman won Finals MVP, but she was the sixth woman. She didn't start. She could do that for the Lynx, the Liberty. I would say the Mercury too. She may start on the Mercury, but she could also come off the bench for the Mercury and still have that same kind of impact that she had for the Mystics when they won the championship. So that's another thing that I'm looking at for a couple of these teams. At the end of the day, we're only 22, 23, 24 games in, so we don't know what it's going to look like at the end of the 44 game season. We don't know who's going to be healthy, who's not going to be healthy. We don't know who's going to be playing at a high level. We don't know who's going to go into the playoffs with a losing streak. We don't know any of that yet. But based off what I've seen so far on July 17th, this is coming out July 18th, but I'm recording July 17th. Based on what I've seen up until that point, I believe that the Lynx are the number one team in terms of contending, in terms of confidence, in terms of being ready to win a championship. I think the Liberty are next, then the Storm, then the Mercury, then the Fever, and then the Dream. If you disagree, let me know why in the comments. I'm not going to go back and forth with you hostile. I just, if we have a disagreement, I want to know why. I want to see what is different between what I feel like and what you think. What would your ranking of contenders look like? And make sure you like, share, subscribe, all those good stuff, all that good stuff. And if you enjoy this content, come back for the next videos and check out the older videos if you haven't seen those yet. I have an Angel Reese, I have a Paige Beckers versus Caitlin Clark video up. I have All-Star reserves. I have NBA content up. I have shorts up. So check out the content. I'm gonna keep doing my best to get out great content as much as possible. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do it every day or every other day. I don't want to promise that, but when I have the itch and when I feel like, okay, it makes more sense for me to sit down and talk about this, I'm gonna do it. So I appreciate everybody that watched and tuned in. If you want to listen to more, subscribe. Thank you.